Welcome to this panel in which we're going to discuss universities after Brexit, what future for UK-Greek ties. My name is Kevin Featherstone from the London School of Economics, and I have the great pleasure of chairing this session. Let me begin by making some contextual points. One of the strongest foundations for British Hellenic ties in recent decades has been the role of universities, with exchanges of students, flows of students, research collaboration, etc. I imagine many of you watching this discussion yourselves will have experience of having attended British universities or members of your family having attended British universities. And of course, as you attend a university, especially as a foreign student, you retain an affinity, a sympathy, an identity with that institution, which survives for the rest of your professional life. So there are many graduates, alumni of British universities in the UK in many different fields. What then of the impacts of Brexit, of the UK leaving the European Union? To what extent does that change this cultural relationship? A cultural relationship which, from the British point of view, has been a very strong cultural foundation. Some would call it a kind of soft power relationship of influence, cultural influence. What then of the impact of Brexit? We know that British universities historically have attracted many students from the UK. Many graduates have gone on into different walks of life here in Greece. Even with Brexit, there are some 10,000 Greek students currently attending universities in Britain. What can we expect for the future? Might we see opportunities in Brexit? What may be done? Our speakers, I'm very pleased to say, can give different perspectives, both from Greece and from the UK. Let me say that on your programme, we would have been expecting to have Ambassador Matthew Lodge with us. He sends his apologies. Sadly, he's gone down with COVID. But I'm very pleased to welcome in his place Anastasia Andritsou, who is the director of the British Council here in Greece. And let me introduce the other speakers very briefly in the order that they will speak to us. Vivienne is the director of Universities UK International and represents UK universities in their external ties. Anastasia will speak from the perspective of the British Council. And then delighted that Dr. Stuart Bond, head of the upper school at St. Catherine's School in Athens here, will tell us of his experience and perspectives. I'm delighted that we have two rectors from two of the major universities here in Greece. Dimitrios Bourantonis is Professor of International and European Studies at the Athens University of Economics and Business. And certainly not least, Andreas Boudouvis is the rector of the National Technical University of Athens, to Polytechnio. He is a professor of chemical engineering. So we have a panoply of expertise and different perspectives, so we can judge the impact of Brexit going forward and what we might expect in the upcoming period. I've invited each of the speakers to keep to about 4 or 5 minutes, so I'm going to stop myself and invite Vivienne to give us her perspective.
Great, thank you very much indeed, and I have to say it's a joy to be here and part of this discussion. And I want to start, if I may, in a sense it's a good thing that Ambassador Lodge is not sitting next to me and that it's Anastasia instead, because I'm not going to embarrass Anastasia by saying what follows. I want to make it entirely clear that UK universities were not in favour of leaving the European Union. Professor Archimanis and I have just been discussing this point. We, as an organisation, Universities UK, almost never take political positions on topics. We're a charity, and therefore we have to be very careful about this. But in this instance, as a group of universities and guided by our board, we felt that the potential damage to universities as a result of leaving the European Union was so great that as a charity representing the interests of universities, we should take a political stance. And we campaigned to remain in the European Union. However, here we are in the seat, the birthplace of democracy. And I have to say that democracy has both wonderful features and features that might frustrate us. And the fact is that it was the majority of the UK population voted to leave the European Union, and however much we might disagree with that or lament the consequences, that is the democratic process in action. And so our job as a university sector has to be to make the best of this, to try to make sure that the things that we thought were important about the opportunities we had to collaborate with partners right across Europe are preserved, under a different set of circumstances, but preserved. And that is our mission and the effort that we're making now. And I have to tell you that Greece has a special place in this for us. So the research ties between the UK and Greece are very strong. You are our 10th most frequent collaborative partner in research. And together we've produced something like 15,000 papers and other research outputs in the period between 2013 and 19. So you're a big partner for us in research. You're also, as has been mentioned by Kevin, we are fortunate to receive many Greek students and to host them during a formative stage of their lives. I studied alongside Greek counterparts. The proprietor of the hotel I'm staying in this morning, when I told him who I worked for, said, "My daughter's at Queen Mary and she's having a great time." It's important that we think about how we're going to stay open to Greek students who want to come and study in the UK. We also, in my view, and I've said this on many occasions, need to get more of the students who were born in the UK or studying at our universities out to spend time in Greek institutions. The flow is a trickle at the moment. About 150 students a year spend time in Greek institutions on study placements, on study exchanges, and I think we need to expand that. But there's another dimension which means that Greece has is a particular focus of work in my organisation. And that's because over the course of the last decade, we've seen a rapid growth in the number of UK programmes that are taught in Greece in partnership with Greek counterparts. That is a success story. Greece has made itself the top host country in Europe for UK programmes taught outside the UK. And my understanding of it is that those programmes complement what is offered by Greek institutions, both in the public sector and in the private sector. So rather than competing, we are adding to what is available to students, either Greek students who want to study courses that aren't already available, or students from other parts of the world who might look to Greece as an attractive destination for international study. So I think our task is to try and maintain that sort of the fabric of that relationship. In view of time, I could say a lot about the dimensions of this, but I just want to make one point, and it goes back to research, if I may. We're teetering on the brink of snatching defeat from the jaws of victory when it comes to the platform for our continued collaboration in research. This matters to me more than almost anything else. When we concluded the withdrawal agreement with the EU, both the EU and the UK said that they wanted us to stay in Horizon Europe. That's the platform that enables us to collaborate in research seamlessly. That agreement has not been signed. I believe, and I've been told this directly by our research minister, if you handed him a pen tomorrow, he would sign. The hold-up is that at the European Commission level, a decision has been taken not to finalise that agreement until other issues related to the withdrawal of the UK and the Northern Ireland Protocol in particular are concluded. Now, I make no argument about the rights and wrongs of the discussions over the Northern Ireland Protocol. It's not my business, I don't know the detail, and I'm just not going to get into it. what I'm going to say is that over here, scientific collaboration has nothing to do with whether sausages can get from mainland Britain to Northern Ireland. It is extremely important that the Commission is persuaded to separate these two questions, to finalise the agreement with the UK on Horizon Europe, and to do it in the next few weeks. And the reason for that is that after the local elections which take place in the UK in May, our government will publish an alternative plan, a plan to spend the money they would have put into Horizon Europe in a domestic alternative arrangement. To stop that happening, we need to conclude this agreement, and I'm sure Kevin wants me to stop talking, so I will simply ask for your help. Please try to use the influence of the Greek government to persuade the Commission to sign that agreement.
Thank you, Vivienne, very much indeed. Anastasia.
I'm really, really delighted to be in Delphi, a place very close to my heart because it's very close to my hometown. And I'm delighted also to be on the same panel with friends and partners. So, challenges and opportunities in post-Brexit. There are clearly challenges, but also considerable opportunities. And before we go into that, I would like us to think about why it's fundamentally important to get this right and to be successful in maintaining this relationship. You heard from Kevin about the number of young people studying in the UK, the number of UK alumni. You heard from Vivienne the number of Greek students studying in programs, UK programs in Greece through transnational education, and also the very close research links between the two countries. But I would go further. International partnership and collaboration is fundamental to our ability to tackle global challenges that confront us today and in the future. In whatever field or sector we work in, an essential component to make that partnership and cooperation work is understanding. And understanding not in its narrow sense of simple comprehension. We are talking about mutual understanding, the sort of understanding that comes from familiarity, cultural awareness, knowing how the society works and how it thinks. It's about people-to-people connections that make a bilateral relationship flourish and endure. And for all these reasons, its central objective, both from the British Embassy and the British Council, to maintain and strengthen these connections over the years to come. And there are, of course, challenges. The most important one is, of course, the changing of overseas student fees, as faced by all third country nationals. This means that courses at UK higher educational institutions cost more than English language courses in other universities within the European Union. And some parents and students can afford these increased fees, many cannot. Other obstacles involve the need to pay an NHS surcharge or the student visa if students do not have a settled status. And despite difficulties this first year of the new processes, the systems worked relatively well and didn't cause significant problems to students that were wishing to study in the UK. But of course, the fact remains that costs are significantly higher and processes are more laborious than when the UK was a member state. So what does this mean for us? It means that in an increasingly competitive higher education market, the quality of the UK higher educational offer is more important than ever. It means that we need actively to highlight, to incentivize students and parents into choosing to apply to the UK rather than other destinations. It means that we need to work together, to bring together all stakeholders, and it means that we need a fresh approach. And that's where the opportunities present themselves. We are really building on strong foundations, and not just the recent historical foundations and links. We already mentioned the number of the scale of the UK transnational education provision in the private sector here in Greece. At the same time, the British Embassy and the British Council is working extremely closely with the Greek Ministry of Education, the UK Department for Education, universities both from the UK and Greece, on a number of initiatives. Back in March 2021, we launched a strategic partnership in education that aims to bring together Greek state universities and universities in the UK. The engagement so far has been phenomenal. 220 participants, 90 from Greece, 130 from the UK, have been shown a very strong interest in the program. We had more than 80 partner matching meetings, and hopefully all this activity will lead to long-term collaborations through joint degrees, research partnerships, student exchanges, conferences, summer programs. Parallel to this, UK government funding this year supported a number of student mobilities to the UK, where 30 doctoral and 14 postgraduate Greek students had the opportunity to travel to the UK on a 4-week placement. The audience will be also aware of the new UK government global program to study and work abroad, the Turing scheme. And the funding is now available for students that want to study overseas between September 2022 and August 2023. Another initiatives have been launched very recently, a similar program from the Welsh government. Lastly, expanding and very briefly on the scholarship offer, the Scottish government has set up its own scholarship program as well as the Welsh government. Here in Greece, the British Embassy, in collaboration with the British Council, is developing plans for a bilateral UK-Greece scholarship program, building on past successes of programs that we had in the Council as well as this evening, and bilateral models adopted with partners elsewhere in Europe. So we hope we will be able to bring together government funding, institutional expertise, and private investment. So for all these reasons, we have a lot of work to do, but we remain positive and confident that we have a strong foundation, a strong ground to build on, and to make it a successful, long-standing collaboration.
Thank you, Anastasia. You've raised a number of points, and perhaps we can come back to those in the discussion at the end. Stuart Bond is from St. Catherine's School here in Athens, in Greece, rather, and responsible for sixth form students applying to British universities. Stuart.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. And I'm delighted to be here in Delphi. It's a particularly favourite, well, it's important, it's inspirational part of the world. Earlier in the conference, at the opening ceremony, it was reinforced that the theme is new realities. And I thought Tatiana Valovaya, the UN Director General in Geneva, was very right, saying we're in a new paradigm. In so many areas, we're in a new paradigm, and certainly in the area of UK universities and their relationships with Greece, it's a very new paradigm. I've been here a long time. I've been here over 30 years. I came with the old paradigm. The old paradigm back then in the 1990s, I don't know if Anastasia remembers, there were British Council UK university fairs that were like the Grand Bazaar in Constantinople. They were so lively, thousands of people attending at a weekend. You went to the airports of Athens in September, hundreds of families, tearful farewells. In December, equally tearful welcome backs for Christmas. The students are coming, our children are coming back. And it was 40,000 at one point. It was a huge migration, coming and going. And as the tide flows in and out, it brings in other things. It brought in British people like me, caught up in the tide, and we arrived. And we settled here. And the next generation, our bicultural children, have repeated that journey. It's a very, very real and a very, very human relationship that we've been through. However, we are now in the new paradigm. It took us by surprise, but Thomas Kuhn, who founded the term the paradigm shift in science, he always said, if you know the paradigm shift is coming, it's already happened. It always takes you by surprise, but it was always going to happen. What's precipitated the rapid change and the rapid reduction in the physical presence of Greek students in the UK has been Brexit, it's been the pandemic, possibly the short-term economic effects of the Ukrainian war. That's just precipitated it faster. It would have happened anyway. The global climate crisis meant that shipping 30,000, 40,000 people to and fro every term was not sustainable. There's an energy crisis coupled with an economic crisis. It was always going to get more expensive. And technological advancement in education was always coming. I was part of a workshop in Seattle at Microsoft before the pandemic. And everything we implemented at my school and many others was already going to take place. It happened overnight. We were forced to act quickly. But all of these factors would have come to play. The paradigm shift was going to happen. And the new paradigm is less of a physical human presence of Greek students in the UK. Personally, I'm sad about that because it has enriched the lives of so many people, especially myself. I'm so glad that there were Greek students in the UK. I'm so glad that I came to Greece. I'm so glad that και τώρα επίσημος εγώ είμαι ένας Έλληνας και πολύ περήφανος γι' αυτό. But that was possibly a luxury that wasn't sustainable. And we are looking at blended solutions, the transnational education programs, UK universities playing that role with their international partners. I think the challenge there to put out to such program designers is, can they foster, through the education, those real human relationships between our two countries? Because I know through my own personal experience, I know through my work with many people in my situation at St. Catherine's British School, the British and the Greek cultures working together are a magical combination. And it's something that I wouldn't want Brexit or the pandemic or a Ukrainian war to put an end to without us trying to work hard just to save something of what was probably a window of opportunity that will not easily come back again, but 3 decades of human cooperation and collaboration, for me, created something very, very special. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. It's a great pleasure to have two rectors on the platform here. Let me start with Dimitrios.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I think that the ties between the Greek and British universities have come under some strain after Brexit. So it's a duty for the academic community from both sides to find ways to restore and enhance these ties between the two sides. And I think that we have a window of opportunity in front of us. This is so because we are at the time, the Greek universities, all of them, have intensified their efforts towards establishing schemes of cooperation with universities and research institutions around the world, not least with the British universities. So I think that the way we should proceed is to create a roadmap of cooperative schemes which can be divided into two forms. We can have cooperative schemes of low intensity, which could be easily sought and realized, and which will actually contribute to the development of a trust between the Greek and the British universities in order to go ahead with, or to move to other more complicated partnerships. So I think that in the first cluster, in these cooperative schemes of low intensity, we can include an exchange of visiting professors, arrangements for the British students to come to Greek universities and take some of a number of courses and vice versa. Arrangements for joint supervision of PhD students, joint research workshops and annual conventions, conferences in order to improve our ties in the field of research. And I think that these are just a few, among others, measures which can be taken, I think, very quickly in order to see our ties to be enhanced. At a later stage, or simultaneously in some cases, we can proceed with other cooperative schemes of what I would call high intensity, because they are more complicated than the simple ones which I just mentioned, which include joint doctoral programs, the establishment of joint undergraduate programs, and eventually we can seek together the creation of joint or dual master's degree programs. So I think that with the support of the two governments and their embassies in Athens and in London, we can, I mean, the Greek academic community would like to see steps to be taken in order to enhance the ties between the Greek and the British universities for the interest of our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Dimitri, very much indeed. Andreas.
Kevin, thank you for the invitation, as well as the organizers for participating in this meeting and this particular discussion. Let me send my best wishes to Ambassador Lodge for a quick and mild recovery from COVID. And let me mention that Brexit is, academically speaking, a bad development, but especially here for us, for Greeks, brings to mind some similar coincidence, the threatening period of Grexit, which is not far away from here. And so in this context, exit is a bad word. Well, I noticed that in the title of this discussion, there is a question mark, and I think we are in the right place. We can walk up to the oracle and ask Pythia about what will be the future regarding UK, Greek, and UK, EU academic ties in the future. Well, I talked to some of my colleagues in UK universities recently on the occasion of this meeting, and most of them were Greeks. And I compiled some notes here in this fashion of SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, threats and opportunities. And some of these issues were mentioned before by Vivienne and Catherine, but let me summarize here in this framework. Regarding weaknesses and threats, significant reduction with a lot of high risk regarding mobility, visibility, and networking for the UK universities. The Erasmus Plus for student and faculty exchange program is practically abolished. The UK government advertises very recently a new Turing program, which is supposed to be equivalent to the Erasmus, which is only for outgoing UK students. Many details, as mentioned before, are to be determined, and it seems to be a long process of rolling out, and the outcome is questionable. Regarding the European Union Horizon funding programs, are still open. UK remains an associate state as we speak, but there is a great reluctance, first coming from regarding the UK financial commitment to the Horizon program, and second, the approval on the behalf of the European Union. Strongest impact is the cost advantage abolished for Bachelor of Science, Bachelor of Engineering, Master of Science, Master of Engineering students. Other graduates and postgraduate students, the fees, now are the same for all overseas, non-UK students. And it's indicative that for an engineering degree now, the full-time UK fees come up to 1,500 pounds compared to the overseas, which is fivefold, 25,000 pounds. Per year. Yeah. Most of PhD fellowships are now open only to UK citizens, and these are the rules of the Engineering, Physical Sciences Research Councils. In UK, it's clear that it's the deficit in STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. There is a persistent deficit regarding the talents that can be attracted to UK, and certainly the deficit creates is not actually does not correspond to the high demand on the part of the employers. And it's interesting to mention that several major multinationals moved their operations and or their headquarters outside of UK. Let me now turn to second part, which is do I point there? Can you move to the second slide, please? This does not seem to work. Gentlemen back there, can you handle this? Yep. There we go. Okay. However, there are some strengths and even opportunities from Brexit. The European Union United Kingdom Trade and Cooperation Agreement allows for the UK to participate, as mentioned before, in Horizon Europe as an associated country. There is access to the European Research Council funds, Marie Skłodowska Curie Actions, grants from the European Innovation Council, and other key schemes. Tens of thousands of seasoned EU, GR, in particular academics in the UK, this is running for decades now. It's a very desirable destination for PhD and postdoc, for Greek graduate talented people. This is compared to the attraction coming from the United States. It's prime time destination via language, although there is competition from the Netherlands, from Denmark, from Ireland in this direction. Well, fame, excellence, a number of UK universities is still there. The Russell Group and the UK Ivy League is a pole of attraction. Distance, cultural, salary versus cost advantages remain, especially outside London. There have been, for years now, vibrant and successful scholarly and collaboration ties between the UK and EU, and especially Greek universities. There is an overwhelming pressure of UK academia and UK government commitment to substantially increase the STEM-related funding coming from the Engineering, Physical Sciences Research Council, and also from the Biotechnology and Biological Research Council, as well as to provide more autonomy to the universities to build their own international networks. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. We have a very good overview from different perspectives and expertise. I want to give the audience the opportunity of asking questions, but before we do that, I would like to pose questions. What I've heard along the panel is that the relationship, future relationship, remains very uncertain. If we're optimistic, the relationship may have a very different kind of structure. Students, Greek students, are increasingly attracted to going to other countries. Andreas has just mentioned the Netherlands, Denmark, Ireland, we mentioned Finland, many other countries, which are now teaching in English and for a cheaper fee, with universities which are also prestigious. So on the one hand, are we looking at a future structure, if we consulted the Delphi oracle and we were looking 10 years ahead, in 10 years' time, would the structure of the relationship be one in which actually Greek students are going to other countries more and more rather than the UK? However, there are a number of innovative bilateral schemes, Dimitrios mentioned these opportunities as well, which would be a different kind of structure. Anastasia mentioned summer programs, Dimitrios mentioned joint degree programs, joint master's programs, etc. And so institution to institution, we might have sustained close links between Greek universities and the UK, but actual consumers, the students themselves, will be disproportionately going to other countries. Do you think that is the kind of future that we're looking at? I don't know, Andrea, do you want to?
I'm not very optimistic regarding the joint PhD degree schemes.
Why not?
And the reason is because PhD students are getting paid from somewhere, and most of them are paid from European programs, and Horizon, another type of, similar type of programs. So it's not that flexible to have students working or doing their PhDs in UK universities and getting paid from their salary from EU funding schemes, while UK is under Brexit situation.
So the barrier would be funding.
Right, and funding is important, very important.
Yeah. Stuart, did you want to?
Yeah, with regards to undergraduate and what we're already seeing, whereas a British school like ours with so many links to the UK would have seen a decade ago 3/4 of the students going to the UK for their undergraduate studies. This year we've seen almost 60% of the students have made applications to countries other than the UK. Many of them universities in the UK plus other universities in Europe or North America. Those with the financial means are going to shop for the best. So as you said, the UK Ivy League is still going to be attractive, and if they're not getting in there, there's other Ivy Leagues, other top universities in Italy and beyond. The market from ordinary Greek families, they can't afford that, so they're going to be looking at solutions here in Greece, which is naturally so. Most countries didn't send so many of its young people abroad for their university studies anyway. So it is changing, but that shopping and looking for best value, if you're going to be paying those sorts of fees, wanting something very prestigious at the end of it, that's the new market. And it's a niche, but that's the new market.
Of course, Oxbridge remains
yes.
a certain strong attraction.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
that's an exception.
Yeah.
Yes, but before coming to Dimitrios, I would make the comment that I'd have thought that the impact of Brexit on student flows would be very different according to put it crudely, the ranking or reputation of UK universities. In terms of the potential loss to the London School of Economics or Oxford or Cambridge, this I'd have thought would be marginal. We simply switch the numbers to other countries. However, for a number of other UK universities, this can be a very serious impact on the business model. Now, Dimitri, you spoke optimistically about the prospect for joint programs. I imagine a number of UK universities would be very interested in that. How could we realize make a reality of that kind of innovation?
Yes, I think that the simplest thing we can do is just to make arrangements for a joint supervision of PhD scholars.
Yes.
Otherwise, we'll be very much involved in difficulties concerning the fees and so on. So, if we'll leave them some time to go and to run this kind of cooperative scheme, then I think that we can find a way to proceed with the more complicated measure such as joint doctoral program. But I would like to stress another one thing which we should take into serious consideration. In every Greek university, one can meet a large number of professors which have previously studied, received British education. So all these callings served as the background in the previous years in order to maintain ties between the Greek and the British universities. And I think that in the years to come, this number will be significantly reduced, and this will pose a serious problem in the ties between the Greek and UK universities to the detriment of both sides.
Thank you. Could I just ask a quick follow-up, Dimitri? You mentioned about joint supervision. That sounds a very attractive idea. But why would a Greek professor welcome joint supervision with a professor from the UK?
Yes.
It's very attractive for the students.
It's attractive to the students, but a professor in Athens says, I can have a Greek PhD student doing X. Why should I share this student with a professor in London? Is there not a cultural problem of collaboration in that respect? No.
No, don't think so.
In my view, I think that, the Greek student will have a strong motivation to do so and to accept this scheme, because he has to do with another one supervisor which comes from a country with excellence in research and education. So, and the second thing is that, accepting to accept having two supervisors from different cultures, as you said, is very, very important nowadays because of the trend which exists towards multiculturalism and in the approach, the tendency which exists for taking multidisciplinary approaches.
Okay, thank you. Anastasia, your impression in this last year of students coming to the British Council, have numbers gone down, concerns gone up, anxieties gone up? What's the impression?
All that, Kevin.
All that, all of the above.
But at the same time, I think it's very positive the fact that still the UK, it's the #1 preference for studies. So I think this is, despite if at the end they choose to go there, or they can, but it's still the #1 destination in almost all the surveys that we do around the world. And I think if we try to foresee the future, having in the mind the tools and data that we had in the past, decreased fees, student loans, I don't think we will go far. So we really need to foresee the future relationship using a new approach, new ways of partnerships that will, of course, some of them we will build on institutional links, and then will provide benefits for the students. We try, in collaboration with our UK partners, to facilitate a scheme for scholarships, even for students to be able to access opportunities for scholarships. So soon a model like this will be available. Opportunities to see the range of student fees. It's not all fees at the £25,000. There is a wide range of opportunities in UK universities. So we try to put in place new tools, new processes, new ways of working. We may see more students coming to Greece, or more Greek students having the opportunity to do a UK degree in Greece. And I agree with Dimitrios that partnerships like this, where we bring the multicultural element, it would be only an advantage both for students and I think the quality of the education in each university.
Thank you. Vivienne, on the basis of what you have heard, do you think UK universities are seeking this kind of collaboration?
Well, yes, but I mean, just picking up on what Anastasia's just said, I think that the important thing is to be future focused, right? We can't undo what has happened. We have to just look at the situation we're in and make the best of it. I think that from the point of view of flows of Greek students to UK institutions, I think it's inevitable that you go through a period, a readjustment. We were discussing this earlier, part of the readjustment is emotional, you know, feeling that somehow, you know, what was possible and desirable before, we in the UK have somehow pushed you away, and I think that emotional reaction is going to take some time to get over. From the UK perspective, look, the reason we're the second most popular destination worldwide for students seeking study outside their home countries is quality. When you look at what students say about the reasons that they choose the UK over other destinations, it's because they believe they're going to get a high quality of education which will set them up for their future careers. Now, that remains true. And as Anastasia has said, you know, what we need to do in the UK is we need to get back out, explaining to prospective students where they can look for things like scholarship support. And as Anastasia mentioned, the Study UK website is going to make it easier to find scholarship opportunities. We need to explain that not every university charges £25,000 a year. It tends to be that high-cost lab-based subjects in highly selective institutions will be in the kind of 20,000 range per year. It's not true across the board. The domestic fee is just over £9,000 a year. The average international fee is around 14,000. So, you know, look, you need to get students to begin to understand and unpick that. And then, you know, as many people have talked about, there are lots of other ways of expanding access to Greek students to UK programs through joint and dual degrees, through co-supervision, through the transnational education partnerships that I mentioned in what I said. And we heard earlier this morning this afternoon from other speakers about the ways that we're collaborating digitally in the co-delivery of content, virtual mobility supplements physical mobility. I think we have to be relentlessly future-focused. There are lots of ways of sustaining this relationship. I believe some of it will involve Greek students coming to the UK, and I think they'll make that choice because they think it's where they'll get the best education. But there are lots of other ways of making sure that the opportunities are available.
Thank you very much indeed. I had promised time for questions. I don't know whether there's a very quick question. Please, one very quick question.
I am at the University of Maryland, professor, and two questions are these.
We can hear you.
Domestic programs from industry, which are very strong in England, but not strong here, can be an attraction to students. And that can help in terms of getting the students to go back and forth in England. And I have reviewed many programs in England where there are consortia between industry and university. And the second question is, I don't understand why you cannot open the graduate fellowships in England to foreign students, as we've done in the US, in Sweden, Germany, Austria, France.
Okay, if you don't mind, I'd love to leave it there. Would you like to respond to those points?
I would like to put this question, the answer to this question, in a more general context. One of the most serious problems that Greece is facing for the last decade is brain drain. And if we can actually strengthen our interaction with foreign destinations, universities, industries, whatever, even at the level of, especially at the level of joint PhD degrees, this will be very beneficial in this context. We want to have our students remaining here without actually putting them in a prison. So we have a window of opportunity of interaction with the outside world while they are remaining in Greece.
That's a very nice way of putting it. The clock is telling me we must stop, for which I profoundly apologize. Who knew that Brexit would give us uncertainty? Brexit remains unclear in terms of the impact. So we're not quite sure about the answer, but I think the questions have become much more clear. So if we were to consult the Delphic oracle, I think the question is now put in a much more intelligent fashion. Can I thank each of my co-panelists here for their various contributions? I'm sure they'd be delighted to talk to you privately as well, but I think that's been a very helpful discussion. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.